I'm a bit
Hi, I'm Johnny Nicol, CEO of Stratajet, and you're watching Luxury Weekly on Chelsea Monthly.
Professional! Hey. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Luxury Weekly on Chelsea Monthly, and we're joined by
Johnny Nicol.
Johnny, nice to be here today. Now we're here at the launch of Stratajet. I'm going to start with the first question, which everybody wants to know. Where does that name come from?
Brilliant story. So Stratajet was really the end of 3 hard days' work trying to find a free.com 5 years ago. When you start a company, you generally just go for a placeholder, something that you can use to work on, and then you come up with a better name later when potentially you might need to buy the .com. But the strange thing with Stratajet is it just works. So strata, cloud, layer, and obviously aviation-related jets, pretty obvious what to do there. So we got a whole new rebrand done, and we expected to change the name, and everyone said, you know what, Stratajet's great, stick with that. Yeah.
Well, now, Johnny, it's taken you 5 years to come to this status, right? Obviously, as an entrepreneur, there's always a lot of challenges to come to something like this, and it's been a very successful launch today. Can you tell us a little bit about the challenges and what you had to go through to come to this stage today?
Sure, they were vast. I mean, so private aviation is the last form of transport to truly go online. We're very proud as of today, that is the last form of transport that is now available 100% online. The reason why no one had done it before is that there are a vast amount of variables you have to consider when you fly privately. So, for example, you can't just fly in a straight line. You have to fly through things with airways, which are sort of 3-dimensional corridors in the sky. And we had to make computers be able to work out the best way of doing that, the most efficient way of doing it. We also had to look at things like landing fees and handling fees and air passenger duty and nitrous oxide emission fees and noise fees and all these other hosts. There's actually 15 fees you have to pay when you fly privately. One of them is the aircraft. We had to do a lot of work to make sure we were able to price that aircraft correctly. And the other 14 are outside the aircraft owner's control. So we had to computerise it for the first time ever. Normally, so this is my 3rd tech company, and normally you'd expect to take a business from starting work to MVP, minimal viable product, in around 6 to 12 months. I believe 4.5 years, which is how long it took us, is pretty much unprecedented. But I was very clear from the outset with the investors this was going to be a hugely complicated challenge. I was also very clear I wasn't even sure it's possible to make this truly online, to make this real time, to make it possible to get a price for a private jet in less than 10 seconds. And in fact, where we are today, we can get a price for 500 private jets in less than 10 seconds. But it's also that complexity is why we stand alone. It's I wasn't the first person to have the idea of bringing it online. I think due entirely, it's worth saying, to the brilliance of my team, we were able to be the first company to actually execute the vision.
Now let's talk about your past, because you just don't get up in the morning and say you want to start a private jet company, except you have some experience in that industry, or you're a disgruntled customer, your business, a customer disgruntled and want to start a weekly. Is that something that you had past experience? Were you part of the aviation industry?
Very much so. So there are 2 things in the world that I'm any good at, and millions of things I'm really, really bad at. The only 2 things I think I'm any good at is flying aircraft. So I originally started training with the Royal Air Force when I was 18 years old, just after my 18th birthday, and then had a military career spanning 9 years. And then the other thing is coding, which kind of came to me naturally, being able to use code. So it was coming together with those 2 things is really what Stratajet is. And when I sold my last business, I had a 1-year work hours, and you know how these things can work, where you're sort of expected not to touch a computer. So I was working 2 hours a week, and I had a lot of spare time. So during that time period, I became a freelance pilot. I did air displays, I did aircraft ferry flying, these small aircraft from Oxford to places like Abu Dhabi and Cairo. It was a wonderful time of my life, but I also flew private jets. And during this process of being a pilot, I realised that half the time I was flying, there were no passengers on board at all. I was repositioning the aircraft. It was incredibly wasteful. The second thing I realised was that the passengers really weren't very happy with the service they'd got, because it was incredibly expensive, but also it took ages to get a quote, and then they were so limited in what they were able to get. So I realised there was opportunity, and when I looked at it, and when I looked at all these really complex computer science problems that needed solving around how we do these there's millions of calculations in order to be able to efficiently move an aircraft. That was the moment I think that I realised that it was going to be a long plane, it was going to be a tough plane, but it was achievable. I wasn't breaking the laws of physics, and I'm a huge believer that as long as you're not trying to break those important rules, anything is possible. It's just a matter of time and dedication, and it really has been a tough journey for those 4.5 years. I know lots of people in the tech startup industry who are amazed that we are here and that we've done it and we've built it and it works. There's a fine line somewhere between dedication and obsession. I'm not sure which side of that line I've been on over the last 4.5 years, but I look at what we've built and it's a mix of pride, but also slight amazement that knowing the computer science behind the scenes, that actually we managed to get CPUs to work in that way.
It's amazing.
To work so effectively.
I mean, the one thing I found with your presentation is you're quite a disruptor. You're someone that's come to the market and disrupt the market. At the same time, you've not come to ruffle feathers. It seemed like you're open for partnerships. You've gone out there to create a solution because something that's not been done. And in an industry that's been pretty much very niche in the past. So what's your inspiration behind that? Is that something that you've always wanted to do, or is it like a light bulb moment?
Do you know what? I've never thought about it. That's an interesting question. I think people are driven to do businesses for different reasons. You have your classic entrepreneur. I've never considered myself an entrepreneur, although it's pointed out to me recently with 3 successful companies behind me, I have no option anymore. But a lot of people are trying to think of a way of making themselves rich, and I think I can honestly say that has never been a motivator for me. What motivates me is efficiency. When I look at my previous 2 companies and this one, it has been about efficiency, because efficiency is this beautiful thing where everybody wins. You don't make enemies. You know, in my case, we have this huge problem with the owners and the providers of the private jet service really struggling to make money, being hugely inefficient, and by solving the efficiency, I make their lives better. Then we have this problem around the customers being unable to get the best deal, unable to choose an aircraft, unable to know how much it's going to cost to fly privately. We've solved the problem there with efficiency. So I think that's probably something that motivates me enormously is getting rid of waste. I'm not sure if there's a deeply psychological reason for that. I don't think there is. I think it's just something where I guess that's what computers are for. Computers are for reducing inefficiency, and so it's a sort of natural progression for me.
Right, I mean, it's quite clear that you have a different view of competition. So obviously, when you were speaking, you quite put it, there was no other company that was doing the same thing. Do you view competition as something that's redundant? Because obviously that's something that's taught in school, so everyone competes. And your business, and some of the businesses that are disruptive and very successful now, are not businesses trying to compete with other businesses, they're businesses that are launched to create something completely different, yes, which goes to the market and becomes commercially successful. So do you think competition is becoming more redundant as people become more creative and disruptive?
I think it depends on barriers to entry. So that's really what drives the amount of competition too. There are various things you can do to stop that. At Stratajet, we are unique. We're the only guys who did this. We're the only guys who we're not the only guys who had the vision, we're the only guys who had the execution. And that execution was so tough that it actually really makes it very hard to have a competitor. But I don't think I think generally speaking, competition should be there. It should always be healthily there. The only time you can get away from competition is when you have a product which is so awesome and so lean that there's no opportunity for anybody to come in and undercut and still make their margins. Then you're relatively safe. I mean, that's always the deadly thing to say. But if I'm not looking at Stratajet, if I'm looking at things like Uber, then there's a good example there of a company that's just taken the market and there's no space for a competitor. If Uber tries to put their prices up substantially, it would leave space because the technology is actually relatively straightforward. With Stratajet, we have this double sort of barrier, which is that our technology is incredibly different. But also, we're not greedy. We are about transparency. We're about changing the way people travel. Not changing the way that the super wealthy book a private jet. You know, if you are somebody who routinely travels privately, you can use Stratajet to find a better aircraft for the same price. If you're somebody that normally travels business class, then you have a facility to find a private jet for the same price. And if you're somebody who normally flies economy, you've got the opportunity to do something really special with you and a bunch of guys. And it's open to everybody. I don't believe in elitism. I believe in a product being fit for purpose. And the private jet market has it's been around for 100 years. The first aviators were private flying individuals. And what we're able to do now is just open that entire market up to anybody. And you can go online at Stratajet.com, you can have a play. You can not like the price and you can do something else. It doesn't matter to us because for the first time ever, we're not asking these really hard-working people all around Europe who have to generate these quotes to do any work at all. You just go on, you can do 1 million searches, and if you get one booking, then it's worth it. And so that I think is what I find exciting. And I think I find it, I love the fact that we are able to give people this experience of private aviation who would never have thought it was within their reach. Because it's such an amazing experience, the control, the time saving, just the removing all the stress from travel. It's an incredible thing.
Now let's talk about some of the surveys that you showed us. You showed us examples of situations where the business flights booked by other companies were more expensive than private jets that can be booked from Stratajet. What would you say to a consumer watching this now and saying, I use private jets, or I've never used private jets before, or I'm an early adopter to new companies like Stratajet. What would you say is your unique selling point to make this consumer move from being just someone who sees this to someone who says, I really want to become a regular client?
I don't need to, the website will, but essentially Stratajet has two core properties which underpin everything we do. The first one is real-time pricing. So you don't have to take any time, you don't have to phone us, you don't have to go through a convoluted sales experience where we're asking you all the time, trying to convince you to fly. Just go online, take a look at the trip, see if it makes sense for you. The second thing is the adaptive empty legs. So by adapting existing empty legs, 40% of all private jet flights last year were completely empty, no passengers in there at all. You can actually get one of these aircraft for you and your friends, or just you yourself, or you and your dog, and there's a whole variety of different reasons you might use it. Yeah, for pet travel, it is ideal, absolutely ideal. I have a Labrador, comes to work with me every day, and being able to just throw him in a plane with me at my side is just it's a great thing. It just saves so much effort. But I've gone off piece because the adaptive empty leg is the second thing, and it substantially reduces prices. That demonstration you saw, which was actually commissioned by a third party, which looked at commercial airlines versus the Stratajet offerings, actual bookable real-time prices, not theory, actual prices, showed that we were not just competitive, but beating business class for groups of 3 or 4 people consistently. But really excitingly, even now in economy, we're starting to bring the price of private jet lower. That means that everybody, seasoned private jet traveller, never thought about it, possibly thinking about it, never thought that they could afford it, can just go to Stratajet.com and see whether there's a deal there that I like. I don't need to vet them, it's worth just taking a look.
Just taking a look. Amazing. Now you talk about America. America's quite a massive audience, great target audience for private jet companies.
Yeah.
Just tell us a little bit about the story of you guys buying your own private jet for your company, and that's a documentary in itself. Going around the States. And how was your experience there? Why did you decide to go down that route? How are you getting on in America?
So I think it's worth saying that the Stratajet went, as far as changes in fortune go, I don't think I've ever heard of a company that had a more pronounced one than Stratajet. So we went from being unable to get the search time down from 4 minutes, which is just too long for a consumer proposition, to the 10 seconds or 8 seconds that we are now. And at that time, we hadn't paid salaries, people were working out of loyalty and belief, and bless them, they were working because they believed that what I had come up with was doable. And then we cracked it, and suddenly we got this funding. So then we had this seed funding round, and I believe we became the first company in the history of startup to use some of their seed money to buy their own private aircraft.
Yes, you do.
It raised a lot of eyebrows. We hired a new CFO, great guy. He was FD of the year last year. And when I said we're going to buy an aircraft, he laughed because he obviously assumed I was joking, but I wasn't. And we took this aircraft. It's a 1983 Achievement. So it's an 8-seater Trin propeller, so it's nothing fancy. The interior is the same as it was in 1983. I love this plane, by the way. It's like a home to me. And we started setting up around Europe, meeting the operators, meeting the private jet operators. We're now doing the same in the US. So the acceleration of Stratajet went from really a very soft launch in November, where we just got a few clients into today, which is when we're telling the world about what we've done. We're already starting the largest private jet market in the world, which is the US. You need to get the supply board. So I have an aircraft. We're meeting 486 operators in the US, spread around 290 airfields. And I'm flying in between each meeting. So I basically do my average day. I get up at 5 in the morning. I do 5 hours of calls with Europe, because obviously we're getting lots of customers now, and people are loving it. We have to keep engaged there. Then I do my flight planning. I jump in the plane, fly, do a meeting, flight planning, fly, do another meeting, flight planning, fly, possibly do another meeting, we go straight to the hotel, and then this cycle repeats. Fortunately, I love what I do.
You're doing your own private jet, Johnny.
But it's actually not a jet, it's a propeller aircraft. It's noisy. It smells a little bit like damp, which I'm a bit concerned about. But it is a private aircraft.
It's still good. It's still good.
Oh, no, I love it.
No, listen, this is Luxury Weekly, Chelsea Monthly. We always like to get behind the personality, so we can, if you're a doctor, we can talk about medicine all day, but we want to know who is Johnny. So we do a little game called Top 5.
Okay.
So basically just get behind the personality and behind the entrepreneur. And so number 1, top 5 best destinations of all time. So travel destinations, because this is travel, obviously.
Okay, fantastic. So my number 1, a place called Ilulissat. I probably pronounced it wrong, but it's in Greenland. It's on the northern side of Greenland. And, I can talk about it. I did an advert for Citizen Watches, where I had to fly around the world in 24 hours following the sunset. It's a hell of a mission. But I revisited Ilulissat there, and it was the most beautiful place. Icebergs floating into the bay, just real edge of the world stuff. So that would be number 1. Number 2, Islay, Scotland, just in the Hebridean Islands. Amazing whiskey distilleries. My favourite whiskey of all time came from there. So that's probably number 2. Alderney in the Channel Islands. Now that's great because you can go there on a bank holiday weekend. You've got to fly yourself. So I've been flying planes around for 20 years, and whenever I wanted to go and take a break, I tend to fly there. And it's just this wonderful little untouched island, which I'm really fond of. Where else have I thoroughly enjoyed? It sounds awful. Orange County. Yeah, but it's kind of an interesting place to go. And I think other than that, actually one of the most beautiful places. The last one. Yeah, one of the most beautiful places I think I've ever seen was in Macedonia. So I spoke about military, but I ended up in Macedonia for a little while, and it was the most beautiful terrain. People don't normally go there. It's sort of between Kosovo and Greece. Yeah, so I think those are my 5 favourites.
Amazing. Now, loads of entrepreneurs read loads of books. Your top 5 best books for you, your choice. So it's best books, top 5.
Oh God, do you know what? I don't think I've read 5 books in my life. The number
top 2 then.
So I actually was asked this a little while ago. I was on a panel of startup guys, and the question was, if I want to start a business, what should I read? And there was the normal sort of, Richard Branson biographies and the rest of it. And my number 1 book, if you're thinking of starting a business, it's called Death on the Ice by Robert Ryan. And it's about the Scott Polar expedition of, I think, early 20th century, 1908 or something. And it was it's this wonderful story of overcoming the odds. It's a wonderful story about human endeavour. It's a wonderful story about fundraising, because they had to pay for this. And ultimately, they failed. And that's what makes it such a great book, because you fall into 2 camps. You either read it and get to the end of it and say, that was a complete waste of time, or you get to the end of it and you say, that journey was so extraordinary. It's inspirational. And I think if you're going to do a startup, you need to be in that second camp. You've got to accept that, if you're trying to do something which nobody has ever done before, obviously comes in a risk of failure. And providing you can accept that and you can enjoy the journey, then I think that's probably the most important thing. I won't try another 4.
Now, finally, John, can you tell us where you see Stratajet going in the next 5 years?
I think Stratajet will be the catalyst that will reduce the cost of private aviation. I think private aviation will become more mainstream. I absolutely believe that when 20 years, 30 years from now, we look back at the private aviation industry, in much the same way as people look back at the minicab industry, say there were minicabs before Uber, minicabs after Uber, I think the same will be true. There was private aviation before Stratajet, private aviation after, because by increasing utilisation, by decreasing price, getting that cycle going, lowering costs for operators with increased utilisation, then we can reduce the cost and that will get more passengers, and so the cycle continues. So I believe in 5 years from now, Stratajet will remain the only place you can go to book a private jet online, but I also think we will see the prices consistently come down. So even if some of your viewers now take a look at the website and there's no adaptive empty leg that they can use, so it's still too expensive, I suggest keep coming back, because I can only see those prices decreasing as utilisation increases.
Johnny, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Really, really nice.